Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, is there no chance the Sonics are coming back? And are the Seahawks possibly getting out of here as well? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Well, big news today is, of course, that the Supreme Court rejected President Trump's tariffs. Or did they? Now, this is a thing you have to analyze from multiple perspectives. There's how we feel about the tariffs, and then there's what's law. When the Supreme Court rejected the tariffs, they didn't fully reject the tariffs, and I think that Trump's breakdown venting session at the media was ill-advised, at the justices was ill-advised, because one of them gave him the path forward. Okay, so what the Supreme Court did was reject them under an emergency clause. How about we start right there? They're rejected under an emergency clause. There are plenty of other ways you can do the tariffs. The Supreme Court ruled that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not authorize President Donald Trump to impose tariffs. They ruled 6-3 on this. Quote, the judgment in number 24-1287 is vacated, and the case is remanded with instructions to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. The judgment in number 25-250 is affirmed. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the court, the government reads IEEPA to give the president power to unilaterally impose unbound tariffs and change them at will. That view would represent a transformative expansion of the president's authority over tariff policy. It is also telling that IEEPA's half-century of existence, no president has invoked the statute to impose any tariffs, let alone tariffs of this magnitude and scope. Now, before everybody goes yelling and screaming about Roberts being a rhino and a fake conservative and Amy Coney Barrett being... Stop. What the Supreme Court did today was protect you from an out-of-control president, not this one, whoever we might get next. This Supreme Court has been very, very clear in its rulings. It doesn't like executive overreach. It doesn't like the president exceeding their powers. When I was at the Roanoke conference, there was a fascinating panel that unfortunately I had to leave in the middle of because some activists showed up. But it was a fascinating panel on executive overreach. And the problem we have right here is you may be cheering that President Trump did certain things, but if he exceeded his legal authority and the court agreed with him, then the next one gets to do it too. Joe Biden tried to use OSHA, health and safety, to force everybody in this country to get vaccines. You realize that? What if now he's allowed to do things because a president before him or whoever comes after is given executive overreach powers? The funniest thing at Roanoke, while that panel was going on, I mentioned the activists who showed up. The activists who showed up were there to protest President Trump's executive authority, which is so ironic given the fact that inside the conference center, we were literally having a panel on executive overreach. You have to worry when it comes to government what your worst enemy would do with those powers. You have to think about that. Number two, the tariff policy is controversial. From a conservative standpoint, we don't like tariffs. We like free trade. We like free trade. We like open markets. Tariffs are something unions like because they think that it protects union jobs. And to some degree it does, and to a lot of other degrees it doesn't. From the beginning, I said I was not the biggest fan of the tariff policy. Using them as leverage, fine, okay. But then when it comes time to actually impose them, there wasn't as much rationale behind them as I thought. Scott Bessent had to do his best with a bad policy that I didn't really like. Is there money coming in to pay off the deficit? Sure. Is there money coming in to pay off other things? Sure. But we're the ones paying for it. And when you are trying to fix the economy from what the Democrats did to it, putting new taxes in place, raising the costs of items, doesn't get you where you need to go. So the claims that the tariffs are hurting the economy, they're a mixed bag. They are a mixed bag. They are bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., absolutely. But it's us paying the price for them because the companies that are importing their products who are paying the tariffs charge more money for it. As Mike used to say all the time, his transformers cost more money because now the company realized they have to charge more money to bring them into the country. And some companies said even if the tariffs weren't imposed, we were raising the prices on them. So when you had the opportunity to try and make the American economy explode, the Supreme Court may have just done President Trump a favor. May have just said if you can't do your tariffs, some items may get cheaper. Now, before a whole bunch of you go yelling and screaming that Ari's a rhino and Ari's talking like a Democrat, no, I'm talking like a conservative. I am not a Republican. I am a fiscal conservative. That is what I am. I hate the term common sense conservative, by the way. Does that mean that other conservatives don't have common sense? I don't like that at all. Okay, you want to talk about libertarians that way? Fine. We can have that discussion because, well, whatever. That's a whole nother discussion. But I've always considered myself a fiscal conservative. Being fiscally conservative means less taxes, means less regulation. However, Justice Kavanaugh did something fascinating in his dissent. He didn't think the tariffs were unconstitutional. He thought the president had the authority to do them. But he basically laid out a roadmap of you want to do the tariffs and you want to do them constitutionally because you just lost this battle? Follow my roadmap. I think President Trump played that press conference completely wrong. And I fault his team. I fault him because what I would have done, you're angry? Sure. Go cool off somewhere for a little bit. I know that's not Trump. But you know what you could have done? You could have said, let me tell you, I don't like that they did this ruling. It was the worst ruling ever. I don't like it at all. Terrible ruling. But look at the dissent. The dissent says we are allowed to do my tariffs, and here's how we're going to do the tariffs. Now, he did them a little differently. He said he's going to impose this and impose that, and he's basically following the Kavanaugh playbook. But if he had just said the justices gave us our path forward, the Democrats would be going into orbit over the fact that the tariffs are remaining rather than what Trump said. What's funny to me today, everybody from Turd Ferguson to Pramila Jayapal to Patty Murray to Eric Swalwell to everybody is posting how much they love the Supreme Court today. Well, hang on a second. 5 seconds ago, you guys said they were out of control. They may actually cause worldwide destruction. Yeah, they actually posted crazy things like that about the Supreme Court. I'm not even kidding. This is the kind of garbage they were posting here. Would you like to know what Pramila Jayapal did today? She wrote this. Good news. The Supreme Court just ruled that Trump's tariffs imposed under his emergency authorities are unlawful. They affirmed what we've been saying the whole time. Only Congress has the power to impose taxes, which includes Trump's reckless tariffs. I wrote back with a screenshot of what Pramila Jayapal wrote on June 30th, on June 30th, 2022. This extremist radical Supreme Court is not only facing a legitimacy crisis, they're a threat to our entire planet. That's right. The Supreme Court is a threat to our entire planet. But today they're your best friends, right? Just making sure I got this. Now, she does have one good point. Congress is the ones who have the power to make the laws. Congress can do taxes. Now, President Trump can impose tariffs other ways, but Congress this whole time should have made them law. You guys have the Senate. You guys have the House. Why didn't the Republicans make them law? And don't tell me filibuster, filibuster, filibuster. You guys are the ones who are saying all the time, don't use the filibuster. Forget the filibuster. Junk the filibuster. Get rid of it. Well, then guess what you could have done? You guys could have said, let's go and let's get the tariffs passed. I have this complaint all the time. How come you don't do more of the DOGE rescissions? A lot of this President Trump can say, here's my executive order, but the executive orders are to carry out the laws that Congress passes. So why didn't you get Congress to pass these? But President Trump can follow the Kavanaugh playbook if he still wants to do this. Now, even though he wrote that the tariffs were lawful under IEEPA's text and history, fine. Okay, that's his decision. That's what he gets to say that, but he lost in a 6-3 vote. So what did he suggest they do instead? Kavanaugh pointed out that there are numerous other statutory authorities Congress has given the president to impose tariffs or duties that might justify most, if not all, of the tariffs at issue in this case, including Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, which gives the president power to impose duties or other import restrictions in response to unfair foreign trade practices. Isn't that literally what this was all about? You don't have to do it under the Emergency Act. See, so many people today are having such bad takes because they're not actually reading the law. They're not actually reading them. The truth is the Trump administration should have originally done them under these statutes instead. Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 authorizes temporary duties to address large and serious United States balance of payment deficits. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 used in past administrations to impose tariffs on national security grounds. Right there, 3 ways you could have done this without using the IEEPA. You could have done them these 3 ways. Now, Trump's not a lawyer. Trump doesn't know any of this. Who do we blame for this? Do we blame Pam Bondi, the Attorney General? Do we blame the White House counsel? Do we blame Scott Bessent? Do we blame any of the other people working in the Trump administration who should have just read the laws and used these instead? The Democrats saying, now we're going to put this money back in the pockets of the American people. We're going to refund all these billions Trump got. No, you're not. Today, he literally announced the tariffs he's doing, and guess what? He has the power to do them under all of these acts. President Trump could have just gone up there and go, yeah, you know what? You tried. You can't stop Trump. You can't stop Trump. Here's what I got. You're not going to get your money back. Instead, he went after the justices and he went after their families. Not a great look. Not a great look. Kavanaugh also argued that tariffs themselves are a traditional regulatory tool for regulating importation. This traditional understanding supports reading the statute or turning to other statutes in ways that permit tariff authority. He emphasized tariffs historically have been used to regulate imports long before the IEEPA existed. And because Congress has repeatedly provided specific tariff authority, in other statutes, the pattern shows where congressional grants of tariff power belong. So who are we mad at here? Are we mad at the Democrats? Are we mad at the Supreme Court? Are we mad at Gavin Newsom and anybody else who challenged the tariffs in the first place? Or should we be looking at the Trump administration and go, guys, there are other ways to do this. There are other ways to do this. So he didn't defend the use of the IEEPA, Kavanaugh didn't. He said, here's your roadmap for fixing this. And I highly recommend, if the Trump administration wants to keep doing tariffs, this is what they do. This is what they should do. Democrats celebrating, premature. Those of you who like the tariffs, sitting Shiva, premature. Right now, Trump has the authority to do it. Under so many other statutes, they just picked the wrong one to make their legal case on. So, that being said, the tariffs aren't going anywhere. In fact, they're here to stay. Justice Gorsuch's exchanges and oral arguments, he asked if a future president of the United States could use this president to unilaterally declare a climate emergency and impose policies he or she wanted as a result. And the Trump administration's lawyer said, probably yes. That's an expansion of executive authority you don't want in the hands of Democrats. Basically, what you see happening here is the Supreme Court is saying, hey, Congress, you guys should be stepping up and doing this. And hey, President Trump, if you actually want to do this, here are the statutes you should be following. A lot of legal work I had to do on all this. And I'm not a lawyer. I took 1 semester of pre-law classes, which I got an A in. But I can read a book. So I'll tell you this. Something else is that the court slapped down the left on this as well, basically saying that, guys, there is a way to do this. You do it this way instead, and you're perfectly fine. So everybody out there on the left celebrating, premature. Very, very, very premature. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with my take on this? What do you guys think of the Supreme Court ruling? You give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You guys have a lot of thoughts already on the text line, even before I put the number out there. This one from the 425. I'm not mad at anyone because I think the tariffs are actually a horrible long-term plan, and I'm okay with Trump using them to get people to the negotiating table, but they should not be used to punish people for non-trade related things, and that's what he started doing. By the way, 425, I agree with you. I agree with you. This one here, Paul, says, I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong on tariffs, but you are wrong that free trade is inherently conservative. Preserving American interests is conservative. Okay, Paul, here's where I disagree with you. I agree that preserving American interests is conservative. I agree with you. But that's not fiscal conservatism. That's American conservatism. Are we American conservatives? Absolutely. You don't have to sign a deal that's bad for you. Having free trade and saying you could trade with you and you could trade with who, rather than propping up China, you don't have to make those deals. It's a little bit of a nuanced difference, Paul, but I do hear where you're coming from. So, this one here, Dennis, says that President Trump posted more powerful. President Trump posted on Truth Social that the Supreme Court decision striking down his tariffs actually made a president's ability to both regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful and crystal clear rather than less. Yeah, he's right about that. He's right about that because they specifically called out these statutes. This one here, Robin Lakewood agrees with me. The ruling won't matter long term. The court gave him a way out and okayed a different section. Exactly. John in Lakewood. Ari, I was kind of thinking what you're saying. Trump hasn't lost. He constitutionally has tariff options. Exactly. Exactly right. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
Oh, what's up? Is you're smarter than Donald Trump and you should be president. That's the short version.
Hang on, Joe. Are you gonna try and get the Hoffman for president in 2028? Is that where we're going with here?
I think we could go with that because, quite frankly, I'd be a great Secretary of Defense for you, and I can assure you we will.
Wait, Joe. I hate to push back on you when the love fest is going on, but wouldn't you be my Secretary of Transportation? You're Transit Joe. You're not Warplane Joe. I know you like warplanes, but you're Transit Joe. That makes you Secretary of Transportation.
I'd be happy to be Secretary of Transportation, provided I get to bum rides on combat aircraft.
Okay, if you're just doing it for the combat aircraft, if I'm president, if I'm commander-in-chief, the Blue Angels work for me. You want to ride along with them? We'll just put you in the back that the news people get to go in. That's no problem.
Sure, dude. And listen, I really am happy. You hear that MS Now is going to have a multi-hour party tonight celebrating the defeat of the tariffs.
M. Snow is going to have a party tonight? They really are not very good at reading. M. Snow. That's what we're calling them now. M. Snow. That's what it says to me when I read it. How about you?
They're going to have a great party starting at 5 o'clock tonight. They're going to have all their anchors on. They're just going to spike the football one after the other, or maybe some of them will take their clothes off because this is.
Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I think I want to see that less than that happening on The View. Bad news. Bad. Now you put all these images in my mind, Joe. But we still love you. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Yeah. You want to be part of the show? Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, if anybody on CNN or M. Snow is having a party tonight, it is way, way premature. The court said President Trump does have the authority, just under different statutes. Read the ruling, guys. Don't read the headlines. There's too much fake news out there that people are jumping on right now. When we come back, lots more to discuss. Why is the media not touching this news about these bombshell documents I got from the Sonics? Well, I spoke to some people about the sports ball. We'll tell you all about it. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. The media has not touched my story that we broke here yesterday on the show about the Sonics maybe not coming back because the NBA has concerns about the income tax being imposed by the Democrats. They have concerns about the amount of layoffs in our area by tech companies. They have concerns about the amount of people leaving Washington State, and Bob Ferguson's office knows this because it was documents from their office prepping Turd Ferguson for this meeting that revealed all of this. Now, this is huge news. Where's Click Daniels? Where's everybody else who's been talking about the Sonics nonstop since they left in, what was it, 2008? Bring back our Sonics. I didn't see this in any of the fan sites. I didn't see this in any of the media. I think the Center Square picked it up. Of course, our friend Brandy Cruz, Jonathan Cho, they picked it up. Nobody else. These are legit documents. I offered them up to some of the sports people, even without credit. Even without credit. Because I want people to know that this insane tax that Turd Ferguson, the Democrats, are pushing forward may cost us the Sonics. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hang on. Let me do a quick little thing here, looking around the various news outlets. Hang on. Let's see if they reported on this. Let's just check it out here. Nothing. Nothing. What was the top news of the day yesterday locally? And I'm going to pick on Como because they ran this like it was the most important news of the day. Would you like the top news of the day? Here we go. New neon sign in town. Pike Place Market gets first new sign in nearly 100 years. Wow. Got a new sign at the Pike Place Market. Wow. By the way, it's not even the one you see when you come up to the Pike Place Market. It's the one that faces the water. So I guess the people on the other side of the bay might be able to, wow. Wow, we got a new neon sign. You know, Vegas does this like every 5 minutes. We get a new neon sign. First new neon sign in 100 years. We ain't getting a new basketball team, that's for sure. But we got a new neon sign at the Pike Place Market. Wonderful. Fantastic. Every media outlet ran with this. A new neon sign is lighting up Seattle's Pike Place Market, marking the first new large neon sign installed at the market in nearly 100 years. Seattle residents spotted the sign on the freeway Thursday morning. Pike Place is a cherished cornerstone of Seattle, giving visitors and locals an experience like no other. So the fact that a new large sign was seen on the move caught the attention of many drivers. Were the drivers leaving Seattle to move to other places while the sign was coming in? The sign was installed on Thursday, standing at 16 feet tall and is mounted almost 6 stories high on one of the market's elevators, making it visible to drivers, ferry riders, and visitors along the waterfront. Wow. Not even the people walking up to the market, but the people along the waterfront. If you look up, you have to look up to see the sign there. Market officials said the goal is to welcome guests and help people approach the area and let them know they have arrived at the right place. Wonderful. Just wonderful. A new sign is a new addition to many in recent months. Back in October, the market unveiled the Heritage Display Project. The new exhibits tell the market's story through 7 detailed murals, along with 5 kiosks, according to organizers. Yeah, well, your little display might be the only thing left of Seattle. Hey, last one leaving Seattle, don't forget to turn off the new neon sign at the Pike Place Market because of all the job losses, because of the taxes. This was the top news of the day yesterday. I kid you not. Not this business with the Sonics, which should have been top news of the day, especially given the fact that we're such a sports town. I'm told all the time, what a sports town we are. How we're such a big sports town. Well, then how come our media isn't a sports town? I saw this op-ed in the Seattle Times, and I almost vomited in my mouth. It's written by Senator Marco Lias and Rebecca Saldana. Now, it's okay to print letters from politicians, but this is the most self-serving drivel I've ever heard in my life. Washington's local news industry is in crisis, and our democracy is suffering because of it. Last year, Washington State University published the most comprehensive picture to date of our state's local news industry. Researchers identified more than 1,000 active outlets in Washington, including newspapers, news websites, magazines, radio, TV stations, but determined only 353 consistently produce original, locally relevant news. And these news outlets are not distributed evenly across the state. 12 of our 39 counties have 2 or few local news outlets each, with Ferry and Skymania counties lacking any at all. On top of that, 25 counties are below the state's county average in terms of news outlets per capita, leaving thousands of Washingtonians with less access to local news. You guys have the internet? Do you guys have the internet at all? Do you guys have that? Just making sure, because there's plenty of local news. You guys just don't want to look for it. You guys want to make sure it's through your lens, through your filter of your leftist insanity. So now these guys are promoting the tax on tech to bail out failing news agencies, and not just that, start new ones. Start new ones. If they're advocating for it, if the Seattle Times is printing it, do you think they're ever going to be honest about anything that's going on when it comes to the Washington legislature? No, because they want that money train coming. Rather than producing good content, they want to be reliant on the Washington state legislature for their money. And the Seattle Times testified that they want this tax on big tech to bail themselves out. Outlets like KHQ out in Spokane, Tri-Cities, they want the money, even though they're a $500 million company. They want your tax money. Do you think maybe if you guys wrote interesting stories, people might read your newspapers? Do you think maybe if you covered interesting stories, warned people about massive taxes that are coming their way, maybe told them, hey, the Sonics might be in jeopardy and the Seahawks might be leaving because of all this? But they won't touch it. Why? It makes Democrats look bad. And Democrats are their sugar daddies. So that's why they're not going to report on this story. In addition to that, you know how ESPN is pretty left-wing? Lots of the sports guys are pretty left-wing, and they do not understand that sports is a business and that teams are in this not so everybody feels unified behind a team, but to make oodles of cash. You guys, you understand this when you complain about the beer prices. How come you don't understand it right now when you're looking this right in the eye? It's still a business. There's still politics. Are we going to get the stadium renewed? Are we going to get the lease renewed? Are we going to get what we want? It's business and politics. And yet they're choosing to ignore those because they're on the Democrat side and they want the Democrats to get their taxes so they can fund their news outlets. This is insane. You want to know why news outlets are dying? Because they're not publishing the stories that people actually care about. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including more reaction to the tariff fallout from D.C., plus so much more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It's pretty funny to me that the Democrats, their new strategy for State of the Union is to protest by not showing up. You know what I think we should do if the Republicans were clever? Any Democrat who doesn't show up to State of the Union, you offer up their seat to their challenger. Just whoever says they're not coming to State of the Union, no problem. Who's running against these guys this year? Hey, Pramila Jayapal, you got a challenger in 2022? Let's give up your seat to whoever's running against you. You guys got a better idea for what we should do with their seats? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. The list is getting longer. Senator Ed Markey, Senator Jeff Merkley, Senator Chris Murphy, Senator Tina Smith, Senator Chris Van Hollen. Is he going to have margaritas with a human trafficker again? Is that where he's going? Can we have some margaritas up there? How about, oh my God, for that one, you know what we should do? I know what we should do. We should offer up Senator Chris Van Hollen's seat to one of the trafficking victims. Let's put them right there of Kilmar Abreu Garcia, or better yet, you want to really send them into orbit? How about the ICE officer who arrested him? Put him there in uniform, right in Van Hollen's seat. Are there rules or regulations about sitting on people's seats on the floor of Congress? I assume there are, but I assume if you get the permission of somebody, it's okay, right? Sure? Yes? No? Pramila Jayapal. All right, I want to go. No, wait, I got plans that night. We're doing State of the Union. I can't go. All right, who should we send instead to fill Pramila Jayapal's seat? Representative Becca Balint, Representative Greg Kazar, Representative Veronica Escobar, Representative Delia Ramirez. You know what a lot of you are thinking right now? Who are these people? And the answer is people trying to make a name for themselves by boycotting the State of the Union who don't do anything else. That's it. Wait, Pramila Jayapal, last year, wasn't she holding up the dumb signs, the dumb paddles, and people were having a lot of fun putting new things on her paddles that she was holding up? Yeah, so she didn't want to get ratioed again? Ugh. Meanwhile, D.C. smells worse than it normally does. Huge sewage spill in the Potomac. Huge sewage spill. According to the Post-Millennial, after one of the largest sewage spills in America history took place in Washington, D.C., it's been revealed that D.C. Water CEO David L. Gaddis has been a champion of initiatives to the tune of $520 million involving DEI contracts. What does DEI stand for? Didn't earn it. The revelation surrounding the DEI contracts came as a 2022 clip of Gaddis has circulated showing him saying there are too many white men in leadership roles at DC Water. Maybe if we just went with whoever's competent, you guys wouldn't have had this large sewage spill. Hey, is this thing going to be cleaned up before the 250th anniversary, or is the place just going to smell even worse in the middle of the summer? Think about that for a second. DC doesn't smell good on a normal day. It's beautiful, but it's built on top of a swamp. We all know this, right? DC and Disney, both built on top of swamps. It's not the nicest place. And in the summer, you're just dripping. I mean, we're looking forward to going for the 250th anniversary, but I'm looking forward to going inside, being in the AC. That'll be very nice. Otherwise, you're just dripping. When you go between the buildings, we don't want that. So now we've got to deal with the poop on top of all this. Great. The recent sewage spill has resulted in an estimated 300 million gallons of wastewater leaking into the Potomac River. You know who I feel the worst for? Those guys you always see rowing. In all the wide establishing shots of D.C., you always see guys rowing on the Potomac River. That's who I feel the worst for, those guys who do crew. They're just trying to stay in shape, but now they got to smell the poo in the water. I know what that's like. In New York, when I used to teach water skiing on the Long Island Sound, there was a sewage plant nearby. And when it rained too much, the sewage plant would overflow into the Long Island Sound. Yes, the Long Island Sound is disgusting. Don't go swimming in there, ever. And I remember one time I'm teaching water skiing at this camp that's on the Long Island Sound. And we have a boom that comes off the side of the boat. If you don't know what a boom is, it's a large black bar that if you're trying to teach kids how to water ski, rather than throwing them behind the boat and giving them a rope and two skis and going ski the way we all learned, instead you have them there, you can help them out, you can coach them because they're right next to the boat on this big black bar. Now, this was a very, very high-end camp, and parents would come out to watch their kids water ski on this black bar. Yes, this is where I worked for. You know what? I don't care. I got paid a lot of money to teach water skiing during the summers. It was good for paying for my Camaro, which never ran. This is fine. This is how I paid for these things. So anyway, we're driving along one day, and I see a sewage slick. We had a name for them that starts with an S that I can't say on air of what kind of slicks they were. But anyway, I see it in the water, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, God, just don't let this kid fall. Just don't let this kid fall. Just don't let this kid fall. Kid falls. But the kid's still holding on, right? So my partner, who's the one driving the boat, and I'm next to the kid on the boat, I grab the kid's hands and just hold on to him right there, hoping for clean water so we can rinse the kid off because the kid's now covered in whatever's in the Long Island Sound. You got the mom in the front of the boat. This is a 16-year-old reaction to this, right? A normal person would have yanked the kid out, but the kid was too big to be yanked out of the water. So I'm like, we just got to hose the kid off and the rest of the Long Island Sound because that's cleaner than the beginning of this. When we get back to camp, I said, now, young man, you go take a shower as soon as you get back to camp, okay? Rub vigorously, scrub thoroughly. It was disgusting. I can't believe we put kids in water like that. That's the stuff we knew about, by the way. We don't even know what else is in the Long Island Sound. Absolutely disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. But now we got to deal with this in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the 250th anniversary of our country. D.C. Water apparently put together the Business Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Council in order to give out businesses to disadvantaged and women-owned contractors for projects costing over $1 million. For the fiscal year 2024, the disadvantaged and women-owned contractors were able to obtain 38.65% of all awards from the agency, which totals around $520 million of nearly $133 billion in contracts. So wait a second. Rather than saying, which of these businesses do you think have a shot? Which of these businesses do you think have a chance? You guys were busy doing this based on what their skin color was, what their gender was. Yeah, no. This is insane. It's no wonder you had this massive sewage spill. This is like when the EPA spilled all that stuff in how many cities? Or how about setting off the giant mushroom cloud bomb they did in East Palestine? According to the Post Millennial, although he has pushed DEI and other diversity initiatives during the time as head of the agency, Gaddis's tenure is now marked by overseeing one of the largest sewage spills in American history. Recalling when he joined the agency in 2018, Gaddis said this was an organization that looked very similar to our industry. It was predominantly, white males at top, but this was a utility that's, more than 70% people of color work at this utility. And I really believe and still believe it has been fantastic. The outcomes have been fantastic. I don't think race has anything to do with it. I think what happens is when you put people who don't know what they're doing at the top, just because you're trying to fill a quota, you get a massive sewage spill in the middle of the Potomac. How much is this going to cost to clean up? Speaking of cleaning up, looks like our friends over at Sesame Street have some cleaning up to do. Elmo is in hot water again. When we come back, my friends, what Elmo did that's causing everybody to be mad because it's the same thing Bob Ferguson did. What do Elmo and Bob Ferguson have in common? I'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Normally, I wouldn't care about posts like this, but the sheer obliviousness of posts like this is beyond imaginable. Okay, the Elmo account. You remember a few months ago, somebody hacked the Elmo account, and Elmo was saying some pretty anti-Semitic stuff? So Elmo's X account already has some problems with it. Fine. What does he write? Ramadan Mubarak. To all of Elmo's friends, Elmo loves you. Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet with a little half moon and a heart? Wait, we got to do this in full Elmo voice. Hang on a second. Elmo loves you. Ramadan Mubarak to all of Elmo's friends. I can't do a good Elmo, but that's the closest you got out of that. All right. Anyway, that sounds more like Dora, I think. Hola, amigos. We're going over the border. Right? I think that's more Dora the Explorer. Okay. Anyway, Elmo tweets this out. Do I care? Not really. You know, these accounts are always set up to wish you whatever holiday. Oh, happy Secretary's Day or whatever it is. Fine. One little teeny tiny problem. The same day that Ramadan started this year was also Ash Wednesday. That's the beginning of Lent for our Catholic friends. I don't see Elmo wishing anybody well on Lent, talking about Ash Wednesday, talking about Jesus or anything else. Last time I checked, Ramadan has a very unique significance. And that's very, very religious. So don't give me the excuse, oh, one's religious, one's not. Yeah, we know why they celebrate Ramadan. But can't talk about that Jesus guy, right? Can't talk about that Catholic stuff. Can't do that. So thanks, Elmo. Appreciate that. We see whose side you're on. The memes are great. People are putting Elmo in little bomb vests. It's quite adorable. Quite little keffiyehs, giving him AK-47s. This is great. Oh, putting Elmo in a burqa. Lots of Muppets and burqas. Now, mind you, this would be one thing if it was just Elmo. But I noticed across the internet world, it wasn't just the Elmo. Bob Ferguson. Ramadan Mubarak to the thousands of Muslim Washingtonians beginning a month of fasting and prayer. Washington State supports our Muslim communities, including by being the first state to recognize Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha as state holidays. How many times has he reminded us of the fact that he was the one to do that? Well, let's see. First, he did it on the eve of Passover and Easter and didn't acknowledge Passover and Easter last year. Now he's doing this again and didn't acknowledge Lent. Now, what happens is everybody noticed this. Everybody noticed that Passover and Easter are not official holidays. In fact, the Republicans have new legislation out where they are asking for them to be official holidays if you're going to make all the Muslim ones. And now every other religion in the world has jumped on top of that, saying, we want our religion out there. You name it. Sure, give everybody an official holiday. But it seems like Bob Ferguson didn't like the ratio very much because hours later, finally what happens at 6:04 p.m., Bob Ferguson does not post at 6:04 p.m. That's after business hours. Somebody from his team puts up a blessed Ash Wednesday to my fellow Washington Christians, wishing all the best, the beginning of Lent, a time of fulfillment, prayer, and reflection. You mean somebody realized that they hadn't posted about the Catholic holiday? And had posted about the Muslim holiday? And this was the second, third, fourth, fifth time they had a snafu like this. Maybe they should fix it this time after business hours. That's an emergency text. That's what that is, an emergency text going on there, because we know how Turd Ferguson feels. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our good friend, Alma. Alma, my darling, it's so good to hear from you. How are you today?
I'm fine. And my friend, why would you get mad at these Democrats for not going to hear Trump lie and talk about the Nobel Peace Prize?
Okay, Alma, hang on a second here. I like watching the State of the Union no matter who gives it. And I thought that Barack Obama told some pretty tall tales when he gave it, but I'm there for the theater. I want the show, Alma. I want to watch the show. Don't you want to watch the show?
No, for me. I don't want to watch it.
Okay.
But
Alma, he has a responsibility to deliver news on the country to Congress, and now Congress isn't showing up, Alma.
but it's not all true. If he was telling the truth, he's twisting a lot of things, my friend. Look what I'm so glad the Supreme Court finally stood up to him.
But Alma, the Supreme Court didn't stand up to him. The Supreme Court says you can't do it this way. But if you want to do it this way, that's perfectly fine.
But by saying no to him was really good for me to hear. And he got mad, and he don't want them to be there. Come on, grow up.
Oh, I agree with you. Alma, this is the one thing you and I are going to agree on today. The one thing you and I are going to agree on is his reaction to that was a mess. I don't think he should have done that. I think it was ill-advised. Here, Alma, I'll tell you a little funny story while I got you, okay? So there's a rumor in Jewish world that during the first Trump administration, his worst tweets were always on Jewish holidays or the Sabbath. And the joke was that's when Jared Kushner wasn't working, so he couldn't stop him.
I know, and that's something to think about, and that's something. But let me say one more thing before I let you go, my friend. Talking about all white men, don't you think I'd like to see some black men? You know all them black flunkies that was running and they love Trump? He ain't gave them a seat. No,
well, hang on a second, Alma. Hang on. Alma, I don't care what color anybody is. I do not care. My brother doesn't see color because he's actually colorblind, literally colorblind. I don't care. What I care about is does the best person have the job, not what color they are. Can we agree on that, Alma?
We can agree, but how would you got children and you're Jewish? Don't you want your Jewish kids to have something to look up to?
Not because they're okay. So here, Alma, let me give you this one. I don't want somebody to become elected president of the United States because they're Jewish. I want them because they're the most qualified person for the job. I don't want this job because I'm a Jewish radio host. I want this job because I'm good at being a conservative radio host. You with me?
I agree with that. But I also agree that Trump is just anything that's black, dark, or not his color, he don't want nothing to do with.
Alma, he desegregated his golf course when he bought it. He bought the golf course, and the first thing he did was desegregate it. He did that, Alma.
Really?
Really, I'm serious. He bought the golf course that was segregated, and the first thing he did was desegregate the golf course.
Only why? Why did he do it? He had a reason to do it. It was a reason.
I'll tell you why.
I'll
tell you why. Alma, you're going to like this one because Trump only sees one color. You know what that color is?
Green.
Green. There you go, Alma. There you go. Have a wonderful weekend, my darling. I do appreciate the call today. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Rich in Maple Valley. Rich, what's going on?
Hey, Larry, first of all, I just want to say you are a great conservative host.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. Hey, listen, in regards to the Tickle Me Elmo Ramadan thing, I wonder, did all of the Muppets get invited? Maybe Kermit or Miss Piggy?
Well, Miss Piggy definitely ain't invited to the Ramadan thing. I'll tell you that, man. Miss Piggy's not allowed in that thing. Even if you put a burqa on Miss Piggy, she's definitely not kosher for that. No halal. She is not halal certified. That's very good, Rich.
There we go.
That's very, very good.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you have a wonderful day. I like that joke. I am using that one. Very, very good. Appreciate it. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Oh, wait a second. I have a correction here from Kelly in Seattle. Ari, Ash Wednesday is a Christian holiday. Catholics do not own it. I apologize that I left out our Christian friends. I'm sorry. You have to forgive my ignorance when it comes to the significance of Ash Wednesday. I one time was at Grand Central Station, almost got the ash on my head. I thought I was standing in line for a train. Wasn't line for a train. Was line for the ash. That would have been funny showing up to my Jewish day school that way. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:30, Brandy Cruz is going to be joining me to give us the latest insanity coming out of the Washington State Legislature. But before we get to any of that, I'm getting called out by John in Lakewood on the text line. He says, you invited Bennett the protester, so why not invite Alma to Stake of the Union? John, I would love to invite Alma to Stake of the Union. The problem is I don't have any spots left at Stake of the Union. We invite Alma to all our events. I would love to see Alma at an event. I've never actually met Alma in person. I've met Bennett in person before, and I don't think he's coming to Stake of the Union, though I have to go back and review that list. Yes, just a reminder for everybody about Stake of the Union. If you got closed out like Alma and there's no more seats left for the Stake of the Union, don't worry. We're going to be broadcasting on the day of the State of the Union, which is Tuesday, right? We're going to be broadcasting, that's the 24th, live from Daniel's Broiler. So you get all my pre-State of the Union analysis. Then we get to watch the speech. Then after the speech, we will be streaming, not broadcasting, streaming my all-star panel reacting to the speech. So you want to make sure you're following me on social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on X, so that way you can see the stream, and I guarantee it'll be a lot more fun because I'll have had a few drinks in me by that point. We'll be sitting there watching a speech. I'm not going to come up with a President Trump drinking game or we'll all be dead. Can't do that. Maybe bingo. Maybe we'll do presidential bingo. That could be a lot of fun. Do that. And whoever wins the bingo sheet, you get bragging rights for the next Stake of the Union. That's what maybe we should do. The Stake of the Union bingo sheet. That could be a lot of fun. This one here from Becky and Enumclaw. Hi, Ari. I was listening to Alma talking about Trump, and I do try to listen to all the State of the Unions, whatever party. But I do want to say regarding Trump, he was one of the most diverse cabinets I think I've ever seen. One thing that is similar about them is they're all smart. He picked everybody that would be qualified for the job. Becky, you are 100% correct. For example, we used to look at the Biden cabinet, and I would always say, how do you go through life being that stupid, all you people? But not just that. You look at Biden's cabinet, were any of them qualified for a job? A single one of them. Pete Buttigieg gets Secretary of Transportation because he likes trains. Hey, I like trains. I don't think I should be Secretary of Education. I used to play with trains when I was a kid. I definitely should not be Secretary of Education. That's like, well, he has kids and they like Thomas the Tank Engine. So maybe he should be in charge of the Secretary of You know what? Oh, my God. This now makes total sense. All the train derailments. He was that kid who doesn't like to put the tracks together. No, Mayor Pete was probably that kid who used to run the trains off the track intentionally, set up the trains, missing an end at the top of the couch so the train would go careening off the... Oh, my God. This makes so much sense now why he was a terrible director of transportation. He's probably that kid who didn't make the model airplanes to hang them from the string in your room. He's probably the kid who made the model airplanes to put an M80 in them and blow them up. It's all making sense now. Now we understand, but he's qualified to be Secretary of Transportation, right? Right? Was anybody in the Biden cabinet qualified for anything? Nope, not at all. Not a single one of them. Well, let's look at what's happening in Washington State because that affects you a lot more than what happens in Washington, D.C. So we have been encouraging everybody to say no to Senate Bill 6346, which is the income tax. No to Senate Bill 6346. If you want to call and register, and the last time I checked, we were at over 50,000 people had said no to this. We're trying to reach 100,000 before Tuesday. We need your help. You call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. And say no to Senate Bill 6346. If you'd rather do it online, you go to leg, as in your leg, .wa.gov. And you register CON on Senate Bill 6346, a.k.a. the income tax. You say no to it. Well, something very entertaining is happening on social media. Brian Haywood put up a post reminding everybody that the Democrats said that the 60,000 people who said no to this thing when it was in the Senate, now it's over in the House, the 60,000 people who said no to this thing, including all of you, were bots. So he told people, because when you register no online, it says, do you represent a business? And a lot of people are having a lot of fun, and they're writing bot in the business. So it's got their name, it's got their no position, and it's got bot right there, just to tick off the Democrats a little bit. So if you want to have a little fun, just put in there bot. Or if you want to have a lot more fun, say Ari sent me. Either way, we're fine with it. You put that in for the business name. Don't make that your actual name. Somebody put in Bob Ferguson registering against it. Okay, guys, you got to be real. Otherwise, the Democrats are going to point to that and say, see, they were all fake. But there's something else here. And this was interesting. Our friends over at Doge Washington, the X account is wake_up_wa. We love these guys. So they posted a screenshot of the people who have signed up to testify against the income tax. Now, you've got Rob McKenna on there, and he wrote a great op-ed for the Center Square about why, this thing's illegal. Do not do this. Do not do this. But then we saw an interesting name on there, and this is what Doge Washington noticed. Andrew Morris. And a lot of you go, who's Andrew Morris? Well, he put his organization in there, and he didn't write bot. NFL Players Association. So I look up Andrew Morris. What do you know? He's a spokesperson for the NFL Players Association. What do you think he's going to testify about when it comes to the millionaire tax, a.k.a. the income tax? That was encouraging to see. Now, what's a little odd is he wrote other. Usually these spokespeople don't say yes or no. They usually show up to give information over. So I assume he's coming to give information over, like how hard it'll be to recruit new players that way. I'm excited about this. I'm actually excited to watch this. And wait a second, Kevin, the hearing's on Tuesday. Isn't the State of the Union on Tuesday also? So wait a minute, hang on. While we're at the Stake of the Union event, we're going to have to get the audio of this hearing to see what this dude said about the players, and we'll play it before the State of the Union. We'll work some technical wizardry. We'll see if we can figure this out. We'll make it happen.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll put a big "we'll see" on that and see if we can actually get it done. Or, you know what? We could do something like our friend Bennett does. What we'll do is we'll just play the cell phone right there into the microphone. That's how we play the clips. Speak of the sun, and you shall see its rays. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line where our friend of me, Bennett, is standing by. Please tell me you don't have audio today. We can't do that anymore.
I'll give you a break today. I'm in the car, and so I can't do it. I can't do it from the laptop when I'm in the car.
Okay, what's up, man?
I thought they were holding tickets for Stake of the Union. But tell you what, if I did go, Rob from Lakewood and kiss my big behind. I'm not getting a vegan plate. You're not munching on some grass in the corner.
You're still mad about that text from yesterday.
I'm getting a damn porterhouse.
Okay, well, hang on, Bennett. You could have had the big New York steak, man.
I told you I will do a debate on stage with you anytime, You started out with do a type 5 with Alma, have her come. I love listening to Alma. You're like, don't you want to watch President Trump? She's like, no.
Why'd you call today, Bennett? What's on your mind, man?
All right. So you had the lady on the show who went to the Issaquah High School student walkout for the Abolish ICE March, right? And she
wasn't that like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that at this point?
And there's videos of like how she got a tussle with some of the students. Now, I do think she may have significantly misrepresented what happened there, because what happened was there was a gathering of students outside the school. One of the students was addressing the rest of the crowd with a megaphone. And now just go online, look up videos of Issaquah students walk out. There's lots of videos of this. Sasha, the woman on the show, went up next to the person on the megaphone, holding her phone, filming the crowd, and started yelling at the crowd, "You guys should be in school. You guys should be in school." Now, look, that's not against the law, but I think it's pretty clearly that she was,
well, hang on a second. Bennett, do me a
Now,
favor. I'm doing this off the top of my head, okay? I don't prepare for callers because I never know what anybody's going to call about, especially you. But if I recall, I did ask her what she was doing there in the first place. And what she told me was they weren't there to document this. They were actually there to cover something else. I think it was about the income tax, and saw this. I don't think we misrepresented her as somebody who had a reason to be there, like a parent or something. I think we just said she's a mom from Issaquah, and she happened to be there when this was going on. And I was curious myself what she was doing there, but that doesn't justify the people who grabbed her hair and were dragging her through the crowd. That's assault.
Okay, so we're talking about two different things. One is the reason that she and, Conspiracookie, Vivian Ivy, that they happened to be there, because they had also been present at a previous student anti-ICE walkout. So the odds that they would have just happened to be at this one as well, which was announced publicly in advance, I would say that's a pretty big coincidence. But let's take them at their word that it was just a coincidence they were there when it happened. There's still no excuse for, and there's lots of videos of this. What she did was she just went up to the front where the person was speaking and stood next to that person and started yelling at the crowd. Now, I've been a counter protester at some events, you know that, but I've never gone up to the podium or gone up to where there was somebody
hang on a second.
The crowd.
Hang on a second here, Bennett. You may not have, but we've seen a lot of others who did, haven't we now?
I mean, I'm not sure which the incident you're talking about.
There's
do it all the time.
Plenty. There's plenty of them, right? We had an entire issue where somebody showed up to speak at University of Washington, and people are pulling fire alarms, and she couldn't speak, right? We've had these issues happen before. Bennett, I'll just say this. I'm not defending anybody's actions in this case. If the kids had been in school, none of this would have happened, right?
Well, okay. There is two separate things. One is that from the videos, I do believe it was true that one of the students may have thrown. It actually wasn't a student. It came out later. This is a 23-year-old girl who's a friend of one of the
all right.
students.
So hang on.
The one through the
you said
punch.
It before I did. What's the 23-year-old activist doing there who's the one who's been charged with assaulting this mom?
No, as far as I can tell, somebody who was in the student crowd on the sidewalk, they called out to this person across the street. She's the one who came over and got in the hair pulling match with Sasha.
So now
that went viral.
You have a 23-year-old who shouldn't be there either, and you're only picking on one person who was there. And I think this illustrates exactly the problem. These activists are using the kids for their own purposes. None of this should have happened. The kids should have been in school. I'll give you the last word, then I got to run.
Well, what I'm saying is that Sasha was the one who instigated it. And when people, especially if they go in pairs like her and Conspiracookie, when they go and they're filming each other, they're clearly in the mindset of, whatever happens, we are not going to instigate any physical confrontation. We'll have our phones running the whole time to prove it. But even if that is technically true, I think she was the one, obviously, who instigated it. And whether the students were walking out or not, the tussle wouldn't have happened if Sasha hadn't gone there looking to instigate things.
I think that none of this would have happened if the kids had been in class where they belong, and this shows what happens out in the wild when they're not in class. If they want to protest, let them protest in the gym. Let them protest in lunch. Let them protest in the classrooms.
Can I add one thing?
Go quickly, then I got to go.
Can I add one thing? Okay. I'm saying that if X, then not Y is not a logical way of assigning blame. I mean, take an extreme case, you might as well say, if that girl had never been on the sidewalk walking to school, she never would have got hit by the drunk driver. That is a technically true statement, but you would be appalled if you heard somebody say that.
Well, what I'm saying here is
condition not true, then this would not have happened.
The kid should have been in class. The kid should have been in class. And if you let them leave the building, things like this are going to happen. They're just lucky it didn't happen to a kid, or they'd probably be getting sued up the wazoo right now. Appreciate the call, Bennett. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Getting back to the here and now, did you know that Washington State now has the second highest gas prices in the U.S.? And I know a lot of you are saying, what do you mean, Ari? We've been there for a while. No. We were number 3. Now we're number 2. And we're about to be number 1. Actually, California might be number 1 for a long time. Would you like to know why? So Washington gas prices have gone sky high. And a lot of you are saying, Ari, it's because of the Climate Commitment Act. You're right. Why have they gone higher? You ready for this one? Because I bet a lot of you don't know what's going on. The numbers from this are coming from AAA. AAA is not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. All they do is put out the prices. Here they are. Have you noticed that the Washington gas prices have been going up also? Here's what's happening. There are 2 oil refineries in California that are shutting down. Not because they're obsolete, They're shutting down because it doesn't make sense to do business in California anymore with all the regulations and taxes that they've put it on. So these oil companies have said, we're out of here. Have fun, California. So now California, which had 2 oil refineries, is now competing with Idaho and Oregon and Nevada and Arizona and, yes, even Washington to get the gas. What happens when you have less supply of something and more demand of something? It gets more expensive. But also, what happens when you now have to import a product? And how do you import these things? We've all seen the James Bond movie, License to Kill, giant oil tankers with drug dealers hanging off the side of them, right? Now you have to bring in the oil. So now that you have to bring in the gasoline because you don't have the refineries anymore, now the trucks, which are gas-powered, have to pay for gas to bring in the gas. And now they have to pay California's prices. So now it's not just the competition. Now you're also competing with these other places, but you now have to pay these ridiculous prices to import the gas. So this is going to get worse and worse and worse. And you know who's going to be in this mess soon? Us. Because our prices are going up also. Because we also believe gas evil, bad, bad, bad. None of this gas. So it's getting more and more expensive. If you have a friend who's a Democrat, if you want to break the ice on a political conversation, you just go, you vote for Democrats, right? And they'll say, yeah, of course. I love the Democrats. And you go, you owe me gas money. just say it to them. It drives them absolutely bonkers because they have no idea what you're talking about. They have no idea. They don't know anything about the Climate Commitment Act. By the way, notice this the other day. Remember the other day I was telling you the story about how the Democrats are raiding the first responders pension fund to fund their spending priorities? Would you like to know what account they're putting the money into? The Climate Commitment Act fund. So this thing that's ripping you off for a whole bunch of money, oh, it's about to get a whole lot worse. A whole lot worse. Actually, our friend Travis Couture, Representative Travis Couture, had an absolutely amazing, amazing post he put up. And he just put this up just today. He compares the Climate Commitment Act to the USAID of Washington State. He says, here's just the tip of the iceberg of ridiculous CCA spending that you get hammered at the gas pump for, and they want to raid police and firefighter pensions for. $40,000 grant given to Seattle nonprofit to build capacity within immigrant refugee communities to discuss needs and priorities through learning circles around different environmental themes. Sounds like a real quality Learning Center situation to me. $650,000 grant given to the Seattle nonprofit to educate their community about the interconnection of environmental justice issues here with environmental issues in Africa. Really? We're worried about the environment in Africa. $450,000 grant given to a SeaTac nonprofit to host 10 community cafe conversations along Pierce, King, Snohomish counties for African immigrant communities to help high school students build their knowledge, skills, and confidence around community organizing. Oh, you mean being out there for Antifa? You know what? I'm going to DM Travis Couture over the weekend. And I'm going to say, you know what he should do with each of these? He should say, would you like to know why your gas is $5.19 a gallon or whatever it is in Washington? And then say, $40,000 grant was given to a Seattle nonprofit so we could discuss environmental themes at the Learning Center. Just make that graphic and put it up and say, make sure you thank a Democrat. This takes me back to that story when Reuben Carlisle, former Washington state senator, the guy behind the Climate Commitment Act, cornered me at that fundraising event I went to when all I wanted was a lamb burger and an old-fashioned, and they were right there in front of me, but Reuben Carlisle has to get in my way, and he says, I don't know what you've been talking about me, but you're wrong about the Climate Commitment Act. And I go, dude, you owe me gas money. And that sent him into orbit, and he really wanted to talk about this. And I'm like, can we just get my old-fashioned and my lamb burger, and then you can talk to me about whatever you want? And I missed out on my lamb burger and my old-fashioned because of Reuben Carlisle. And I have not gotten over this. So, at Stake of the Union, old-fashions for everybody. Okay, I don't actually know that's true. I'm not going to promise that. But we do have a drink called the Executive Order, which is an old-fashioned, which we will be serving at Stake of the Union. And yes, I will have one, maybe two, to make up for the one I was denied by Reuben Carlisle. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, a doctor is now apologizing for doing trans surgeries and not speaking up about them. Do you forgive him? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Oh, people are not happy with Bennett sticking up for the violent protesters. So we got this one here. This is from the 206. Bennett again excusing violence on the left. This one from Joe from Roy. So according to Bennett, if a leftist shows up to a conservative gathering and speaks out, we beat them down? You know, okay. I mean, that's the extreme case here, guys. As I say from the beginning, the kids should have been in school and none of this would have happened. John just emailed me. He said they're called students for a reason. Students are in class during school hours, not out protesting issues they know little about because adult political activists say they should. If Republicans did this, there would be outcry from progressives about how children are being used and abused for political purposes. All right, I like what John's saying here. Let's say Ari Hoffman said, I'm going to get all the Jewish children. We're going to take all the Jewish children and we're going to go protest somewhere. They would go, look at what Ari's doing for his own religious purposes. If the Christians took all the kids out of the Christian schools, if the Catholics took all the people out of the Catholic schools and did the same thing the public school teachers are saying, you're brainwashing them with your magic book. That's what you're doing. You're taking them out of school and using them for your own political purposes, right?
Well, they don't need to. They're already sitting there being brainwashed already.
Excuse me. We are indoctrinating them our way in our schools. Thank you
What I
very
said,
much.
you don't need to take them out of there to get that kind of action.
Oh, now you're really going to kick over a hornet's nest, you.
Well, you brought it up.
If I was using them at protests, if I was taking the kids to protest, that's of course what they would accuse me of doing. 100% if I'm sending them out on the streets to go, I don't know, let's say go protest Joe Biden. If I had a whole bunch of kids out there protesting Joe Biden that are all wearing little yarmulkes on their heads, what do you think would happen?
Yeah, of course. And why are we doing this? Why are we using kids to do this sort of stuff anyways?
Exactly. Don't use the
first
kids.
of all, I didn't get to have this excuse to leave school. They shouldn't have that. Okay? Again, we've discussed this. Only bomb threats and threats of snow. That's it.
That's all you get to do. That's it. This is the new bomb threat, right? The new bomb threat is,
It
we got to
totally
protest
is.
ICE. It is really what it is. I have a test today. Hey, quick, let's organize an anti-ICE protest. They're a little bit more spontaneous now. I think the kids have picked up on this. I think they really have. This is the new bomb threat. Do not call it bomb threats. Do not organize anti-ICE protest. There's just going to be something else next. Right? What's going to happen next? Cops going to shoot somebody, and then it's going to be social justice protests. Who knows what's coming next? We'll take your predictions. Yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. Meanwhile, I'm getting more emails of more of you want me to invite Alma to the Stake of the Union event. Okay, once again, sold out, but I'll tell you what. If we find out there's a cancellation, I will see if we can get Alma at Stake of the Union, because it sounds like a lot of you want to meet her in person.
She sounds like she does not want to go anywhere near that place. And you've invited her to events before.
Yes.
And
she didn't show up. Yeah,
no.
we did have 2 tickets for her at whatever the last event was, and she didn't come. But Alma, we would love to see you at a future event, so we will make sure to make that happen. It's not that we don't want dissent. If somebody wants to come there and ask tough questions during the panel afterwards, more than happy to do it. And I'll have a few drinks in me, so I won't be at the top of my game, shall we say. That's your best attempt to defeat me in debates. Now, here's a guy I really want to debate. This guy was going viral last night. A plastic surgeon who trained at a major New York City hospital has apologized for failing to speak up after seeing minors as young as 13 undergo irreversible gender surgeries. Quote, as a father to 3 young children, as a physician who took an oath to do no harm, I failed to speak up, and I just want to thank President Trump for having clarity on this. Now, a lot of people are praising this guy for finally speaking up. Not for me. If you see something wrong happening and you took an oath to do no harm, why didn't you speak up beforehand? I know doctors who refuse to do these surgeries. I have friends who won't do these surgeries. So why are we praising this guy because he's finally speaking up now that he thinks it's safe? A plastic surgeon who trained at a major Manhattan hospital is apologizing, according to Fox News. This guy, what's his name here? Dr. Ira Savetsky, who trained at NYU Langone Center, said the culture inside the elite medical programs left little room for voicing his concerns. This is one of the ones that just shut this stuff down. He says, you're at the #1 plastic surgery program. You're just grateful to be there. There's no room to speak up. You're just a soldier. He said you worked hard to get there. You don't want to make waves. Savetsky's comments come as the Manhattan Hospital announced it would end its transgender youth health program. Oh, isn't that a contradiction in terms? A move that follows regulatory pressure from the Trump administration, which is threatened to pull federal funding from hospitals offering such care. Hey, Fox, I don't think that's an accurate way to describe this. Trump's been threatening this stuff for a year now. And in fact, a lot of hospitals have openly defied him. The reason they're shutting it down now is because there was a lawsuit and there are more on the way. And there is no medical science that backs any of this up, which is why the person who sued won, which is why more people who are going to sue are going to win. A hospital spokesperson told the New York Post, given the recent departure of our medical director, coupled with the current regulatory environment, we made the difficult decision to discontinue our transgender youth health program. No, it's not because of that. It's because of the lawsuits. We all know this, right? They said we are committed to helping patients in our care manage this change. This does not impact our pediatric mental health care program, which will continue. Hey, by the way, it should have been that all the time. That's what it should have been. I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of respect for this doctor guy. I really don't. That now you're doing it, I understand keeping a job. Transfer to a different hospital. You know, during the big riots on college campuses, Yeshiva University, okay, not exactly top tier institution. I went there for college. But kids were transferring out of Harvard, transferring out of Yale, transferring out of all these elite Ivy League colleges to go to Yeshiva University. That's kids with the courage of their convictions. just now saying, oh, now it's safe, I'm going to stand up for this? Nah. Tell me if you agree with me. Give me a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Robin Lakewood says, don't kids need parental permission to leave school? Well, see, that's how the schools are getting around this. They're saying, oh, well, they didn't have our permission. It's an unexcused absence. Then why are the teachers out there? And why aren't you stopping them the way they stopped us when we were kids? You are not allowed to leave that building. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Brandy Cruz will be joining us to discuss what's going on in the Washington State Legislature and how there may be a ray of sunshine with regards to fraud. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.